afternoon from the East Coast and good morning on the West Coast. This
From
is
the West
TVT.
Coast. Hello.
Hello, this is TVT with Di and Thea. I'm your host, Thea D'Souza, and my co-host is.
Diane Gordon here on the West Coast reporting for duty.
Wow, how is it out there? How's the weather out there,
You know
Di?
what? We're so fortunate. It's just gorgeous. I was outside having coffee, when you texted me and said, "Hey, ready to go." I decided coffee al fresco was an order because it's like 70 degrees and gorgeous and it's
Amazing. It's spitting cold rain here on the East
oh
Coast.
no.
It's
Oh no.
it's not a wonder why more celebrities don't live on this side. Okay, so let's get right into it. Last week we started our podcast, our flagship episode, with a little background, and I thought maybe we continue on that. So I think I will go first and talk about
Okay.
my journey to our podcast, which is I went to college and grad school in New York City. I went to grad school for film, undergrad for theater directing, and that took me not far at all in life. So I went into film, and then I started as the second unit on the second unit crew for Seinfeld. So I did a lot of their exterior shots, scouted locations. Amazing experience, as you can imagine, Di. Just
Totally.
being on the ground floor of that show. I'm actually going to an event on Sunday. It's the Place to Be podcast is participating in this Seinfeld event in New Jersey, and I'm going to be one of the panelists
We
talking
love
about.
this for you.
We're doing a Q&A talking about Seinfeld, and these poor people that are going to pay for tickets to this event are going to have to hear me talk about how I shot the fronts of buildings. But they love it. Seinfeld fans have been dissecting the show for now,
Exactly.
25 years. And I really honestly think they've run out of things to dissect about the show. And so now they're on to me. And now they've decided, wait, let's talk about these front exterior shots.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have my friend Darren Karp, who is an entertainment journalist and Bravo expert. Seinfeld's literally her favorite show. She knows so much about Seinfeld. I think we might have to have her on sometime.
Well, as I've been trying to teach you in our last episode about just getting a little better at the name dropping, what else does Darren Karp do for a living? Let's just throw that out there.
She has many jobs. She wears many hats. She's worked with Andy Cohen at Bravo.
Oh, Andy Cohen. There we
Yes,
go.
yes. And Darren is also the fiance of Nadine Rajabi, who
Mhm.
it was one of the executive producers of below many seasons of Below Deck Med. She started Below Deck Down Under, and now she is an executive. And I think it's Blink 49, which produces a lot of scripted and unscripted shows.
Well, we are going to get on these guests pretty soon. We thought we'd do just a few warm up episodes, get to know our audience, get to know how this format works, and then we'll eventually be adding in little segments at the end of our regular show that include a guest. So that'll be very exciting. Between Di's connections in television and my connections in TV and film, I feel like our Rolodexes are pretty deep, Di. What do you think?
Well, depending on who's still talking to us there.
And we're going to be putting this on platforms on Apple and Spotify. That'll be coming up soon, which I'm excited about because my dad does some podcasts on NPR. You can look him up, John DeSando, on WCB.org. He does some movie podcasts. So I am like a nepo baby in the podcast world. He's not helping me at all with his connections because we are not on NPR, but I am a nepo baby, I feel like.
You definitely are. I love that.
So just to finish up with my storied career, I moved out to Los Angeles. That's when I met Di, when I was an assistant at 3 Arts Entertainment. And then I left 3 Arts. Honestly, I was getting tired of the talent side of things, and I wanted to go into development. I actually dated this guy who worked in development, and I didn't even know that this was a thing. And he said he was a development boy. I said, "What's that?" And he said, "I work on scripts." And I was like, "Sign me up. Like, I love that part of the industry." So I went and got a job at Copus Entertainment working for Matt Gross, and I just evaluated scripts all day, every day. I script tracked, I did notes and coverage, and I also was an assistant, and then moved on to be a junior executive for Harold Ramis, and then moved to New York, and I worked as a story editor for Julia Roberts. And then after that, I've just been a writer from home forever. It feels like forever.
Just
And
writing, just writing best-selling books. That's all.
I do have a couple books that were bestsellers on Amazon. I'm still working on my own novel that I'll be publishing soon. And I'm hoping to get a few people on here that are in that world as well. So we'll see who we come for guests, but I'm very excited. Okay, guys. So we last week we talked about how you work for Jennifer Aniston and you guys are best friends. And then moving on from that.
Don't say that. I don't want to add to the misinformation.
I know.
To America. No. I grew up in Chicago, and this is how old I am. I was walking home from class one day, and I heard somebody yell action, and then I heard somebody yell cut, and it was the movie My Bodyguard shooting in downtown Chicago. And immediately the show business animal in me just went, could I meet the director? And I wound up watching, I think over half the movie. They let me come to set. The director, Tony Bill, said, hey, as long as you don't cut class, you can come watch.
Wow.
He also let me
and then you had the bug.
He also let me go to dailies. I
Wow.
literally was like learning, and I didn't realize what a privilege, but I just sat and watched and kind of soaked it all in. And also met one of my comedy idols, Martin Mull, who was in that movie.
Oh.
Anyway, I decided I wanted to work in show business, God help me. Applied to UCLA, got in, moved to California, worked in campus events, and I worked in the speakers program and started inviting celebrities to campus to speak. And that is when, and I started reading Variety every day. And let me tell you, gossip columns, news and variety, I learned a lot just about the industry reading that. But mostly I also learned how to deal with publicists. Invaluable. I wrote, I lost count of the letters I wrote. And, anyway, when I got out of college, had to get a job right away. So I worked in the Paramount mailroom, delivering mail on a rickety bike.
The mailroom bike experience is integral, and I hope they cover it on the show The Studio that we both are watching and loving on Apple. I hope they cover a little bit of the bottom side of the industry. They touched on the little girl in the room. But the mailroom is, and the friends you make in the mailroom that you keep forever. The mailroom is iconic, Di.
It's funny you mentioned that, Thea, because one of the people I worked in the mailroom with was Damon Wayans Sr. And this was right before In Living Color. And one day his brother, Keenan Ivory Wayans, came to see him. And I went, no, really, you two are brothers? Because they could not look more different.
Wow.
Keenan was just a gorgeous, gorgeous man. And Damon, he used to just kind of try out new jokes because he was doing stand-up at the same time.
In the mailroom,
while we were sorting mail, and it wasn't, and it was a trailer, by the way. It was just a trailer, mail trailer. Right. And he'd be trying out stuff, and then all of a sudden he'd go, I gotta drop the kids off at the pool, which meant he was going to take a dump. So, cut to all these years later, at the last TCA press tour, we did a set visit on CBS Day to Papa's House, which is a new CBS series starring Damon Wayans Sr. and his son, Damon Wayans Jr.
Right. So
I walked up to Damon and I said, I don't know if you're going to even remember me. I said, but many years ago, we worked in the Paramount mailroom together. My name's Diane Gordon, and I'm like thrilled that you have another show on the air. And he like looked at me for a minute and he went, oh my God. And he like gave me a big hug. He goes, Diane, he goes, do you know what they gave me as a start gift for this show? And I was like, no, what? He goes, a mail bag. I go, get out of town. I said, that is the best start gift story ever.
Full circle moment for you, full circle moment for him with the mail bag.
Total. And I loved it. I just loved it. So anyway, there you go. But anyway, I've had so many jobs in Hollywood. It will take too long if I talk about them all. But my whole thing was I wanted to get some experience in a lot of different parts of the business. So I worked at ICM for about a year. Terrible. Never want to work at an agency again. I worked for Bright Kaufman Crane before Friends, which was interesting. It was when they first got their development deal at Warner Brothers. I worked, then I wound up at 3 Arts, and that's where I spent like a whole decade. I also worked at Columbia Pictures Television, where I learned how TV shows got made. And that's when I realized I got to work in television.
So who was the nightmare over at Bright Kaufman Crane? Because I've heard stories.
That would be Kevin Bright. David Crane and Marta Kaufman are fabulous. Amazing. Kevin Bright is, you know what? We're going to save my horrible Kevin Bright story for another
So
Another,
these are the creators of the production team behind these
yeah,
shows.
they were also behind the hit HBO show Dream On,
Oh,
which
I love Dream On.
that was a funny show, and that
Mhm.
incorporated clips, and Brian Benben starred, and it was a very funny show. I was Marta and David's assistant, and
Right.
uh Kevin, oh boy, I could do a whole hour on Kevin Bright, and maybe I will.
You never know. Let's
You're
get him
right.
on the pod. Let's ask him some questions.
You know what? I can't do that because you know why? I couldn't be nice. Even though it was many years ago, I couldn't be nice. Um,
I always get asked this, and I'm sure you do as well. Every time I bring up that I worked in Hollywood, people say, "Well, who's amazing and who is the worst in Hollywood? You know, who is the best person you ever met that was the nicest, and who was the hardest?" So, what do you have? How do you answer that?
I don't, I always say, look, you never know when you're catching someone on a bad day.
Oh
I
yeah,
can make these statements about Kevin Bright because I worked with him. I was there for about a year and a half.
consistently, so
So
you know it speaks to his character.
it's about pattern.
Right.
Now, David Crane and Marta Kaufman are lovely people and very, very smart people. So it's a pleasure when you get to work with smart people. I think Kevin, I think he's a smart guy, but um, the way he conducted himself left room for a lot of improvement, in my humble opinion.
Right.
I
Right.
don't,
I hear you.
I don't usually say someone is amazing or terrible. I say, look, you're dealing with Hollywood temperament. You just never
Right.
know what you're going to get. You got to
No.
hope for the best, prepare for the worst. That's also from years of, you know, after I worked at Three Arts and stuff, I started doing like red carpet reporting and event reporting. And that's when you really learn to roll with it in the moment because you never know what kind of mood people are going to be in.
Right.
You hope you're going to get them after a drink or two when they're sort of loose and sort of relaxed. And I used to just try to get some good quotes for Variety or Vulture. That's who I reported for, but you just never know. And
You don't know, and you hope that people are that are in an industry like that and are dealing with people like reporters or assistants, that they're going to be, even if they're not great people, that they're going to be nice, and but they aren't usually. And even nice people are not usually as nice to the underlings. Now, if you work, when I became an executive, I saw a huge difference between how people treated me as an assistant because I was the gatekeeper. I mean, I met with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. I met with everybody and Drew Barrymore, everybody in my office to do a movie with Harold Ramis. And you could not imagine how nice these people are because they want to do a movie with Harold Ramis. They want to work at Fox, the
so
studio
true.
that I was. And even at a junior level, it's amazing to see. But you're right. You know who's good and who's not good in Hollywood. You know.
What I noticed as an assistant also was that certain clients, kind of as they got to know me, from calling in the office or whatever, they knew I was smart. So they would
Right.
treat me, or they would, I had some things discussed with me by clients and it surprised me.
Right.
I was like, why do you care like what an assistant thinks?
Right. But they know
But
we're the gatekeepers. We have our boss's ear. Assistants are very important in Hollywood. Very important.
oh, I also think the most a lot of successful people, they try to treat everyone with respect.
Right.
Because also, you never who you're going to meet on the way up and who you're going to meet on the way down. So
Right.
try
And
not to burn your bridges.
I do think that the longer the people are in the business, longer they realize that, and the nicer quote unquote that they get. All right. Well, speaking of TV, that's on now, the studio we just touched upon, which is on Apple, which I think is an excellent show. And they've now done 3 episodes and consistent. Di, do you agree? Like consistently genius.
Yeah, I burned through all the screeners of this series. So I just want to say, if you're not watching the studio already, get into it because every new episode is a new treat.
Right.
And
The whole noir thing they try to touch on this last week.
fabulous.
And when they start with the gag, I'm thinking in my head, oh, this is going to get old quickly. The whole like the running gag is the guy's doing kind of therapy voice notes, and it comes across, and I'm sure this is a stylistic choice, as like a voiceover in one of the old, noir detective movies from the 30s and 40s, and it works so perfectly. And of course,
Olivia Wilde.
Making fun of herself and her reputation for being a difficult director was on point. I mean, I think honestly, this show is so genius in that it can be broad and it also is very subtle, and there's lots of subtle nods. But
Yes.
like I said, I hope they cover more because it tends to get big in terms of almost like a fantasy show, and it actually is very realistic, as you know. And so I'm hoping they cover more of the minutia, more of the insider, the assistants, and the drudgery, because he is the head of a studio. And I keep going back to it as I'm watching, is no one has your experience. The head of a studio is so kind of aspirational and iconic and almost an archetype. And I think more interesting would be to cover a little bit more of what's going on below him.
They don't do that, at least not in the first season. You do see a couple of assistants, because Chase Suey Wonder's character is Matt's assistant, and then he promotes her.
Right.
Kayla Menterosa, who's a very, very hot young actress, is the new assistant. But no, they don't get into those things, because I think for at least the first season, I'm really hoping they're going to get that second season order any day.
Well, I'm sure they'll be checking out the pod and they'll take my advice.
I'll take your notes. Yes.
Okay, so we have to talk, because we talked about last week, we have to talk about the White Lotus finale. What did you think, Ty? Did he wrap it up? Did Mike White deliver?
I think it was good. I didn't think it was great, but I do think it was good. I can't say I was surprised that Rick and Chelsea,
not surprised.
Chelsea knew something bad was going to happen, and she kept saying it throughout the season. Rick was caught up in his own drama and his own tragedy, and so no, I wasn't surprised by that. I know there were a lot of people that were just disappointed in it. I'm like, people,
no.
What is it you want? This is when audiences really like irritate me. But what did you think?
I loved it. I was not surprised, but it reminded me of the Breaking Bad finale in that he delivered for the fans. So in other words, what we wanted the bad people to get their due. We wanted a surprise. We wanted a Jennifer Coolidge type death, like all of that. I feel like he really pays attention to what we want. I saw an interview. He said, I read everything. I know everything they're saying about the show. And I'm thinking that he talked to the test. You know what I mean? Like he kind of played to us, which is fine with me, but I feel like that's why it was so satisfying.
But here's the thing. This was shot so long ago that he couldn't possibly have been responding to what fans want.
But because he is such an avid TV watcher and lover of TV, anticipating what the fans would want, what Gilligan admittedly says he did as well. As a lover of television, I know what I would want that would make me feel satisfied. So I felt like he was kind of possibly responding to that feeling, because I think he did kind of give a satisfactory ending. Now, more surprises. He's very big into laying hints and clues, which I think makes it a more interactive TV experience, and probably is acknowledging social media and the fact that people are going to talk about what we think is going to happen and how fun that makes the show, because we're all looking for that. In this isolated age, we're all looking for ways to connect. So I think
that's where like the poison fruit and the blender and
the red herring. A little heavy on that, if you ask me, because I would prefer to be more surprised. I honestly wish the whole Ratliff family died of the smoothie. I think that would have been amazing.
We're never going to hear the end of the dirty blender. We're never going to hear the end of why did he use a dirty blender.
Because he's a man and they don't wash dishes.
Thank you. Yes. Yes.
All right. So we both liked it. I think I might have liked it more than you, but I just was so delighted in how well he tied it up. I felt like this was fitting. This was all fitting. We all wanted Belinda to have her day. We all wanted, so I loved it. Okay, on to, are you watching Dying for Sex?
I've seen all episodes.
You have the screen. Di has the screen, or no, it's not.
No. The whole thing's already dropped. Yeah, the whole thing's already dropped.
Okay, I'm loving it. You love it.
I think it's fantastic.
Now, were you familiar with the podcast on which it is based?
I was not. I did not listen to the podcast. And I have to say, when I was watching the show, I kind of thought, I don't know, I don't think this is for everyone, but I think it's going to really resonate with a lot of women.
Right. I mean, I am loving it as well. I love the tone of it. So it's a show, if you haven't seen it, it's a show about a woman with terminal cancer who, in the first half of the season, is a little sex obsessed, which is amazing and fun and probably accurate and lovely.
Yeah.
And so it's called Dying for Sex, but it has obviously the most one of the most amazing actresses of our generation playing the dying woman, which is Michelle Williams, and Jenny Slate, who's also amazing as her best friend, and their journey together through her cancer journey. But it sounds depressing. It sounds, I've had a lot of followers on my Your Moms Are Watching page tell me I can't watch it. You know, my friend has this or my mom has this. I don't want to be reminded of it. I had a little similar thing when I started watching it. Like, I don't know if this is for me tonight. Like, I don't want to be depressed. But it so expertly does not super depress you.
No, and I think it's because it's really more about Molly, that is Michelle Williams' character. You know, Molly's basically like in her 40s, and she's sort of realizing there's a lot in life that she hasn't experienced. So really what the show is about is this sort of journey of discovery of things that she wants to do that she hasn't done. Now, some of these take, I don't even want to say weird, but sort of a darker turn, an odder turn,
Right.
you know,
Right.
things you wouldn't necessarily think of right away, but it's done so expertly, you know, and you know, cheers to Liz Merriweather and Kim Rosenstock, who wrote a lot of the episodes, for the tone that they struck with this. And also, one of the big things that Jenny Slate's character is so important as the best friend is Molly is married, but she realizes if she's facing a terminal illness, she doesn't want to do that with her husband, who's played by Jay Duplass, who, as always, is wonderful.
Amazing.
But she realizes that she doesn't want to face that with him.
Right.
And she
Right.
says to her best friend, I want to die with you. Now, let me tell you, those are really sobering words, but it's just really beautiful. That's
It
the thing.
is.
Watch it, you're just very, things really hit your heart hard.
I have been trying to tell people it is not about dying, it's about living. It is teaching you
Yes.
to live, it is saying this is what we need. We are all living. We have a short life. Maybe it's longer for some of us than Michelle Williams' character, but the point is live your life doing things that are happy. Don't marry somebody they're not happy with. All of these little lessons throughout the show that actually have nothing to do with cancer, but as stated by many, many poets, we are all dying, just we don't know when. So you might as well live.
I think one of the other things the show does really well is do the things you want to do and don't think about judgment. Don't judge yourself. Don't let other people judge you. Do the things you're curious about.
Right. Exactly.
So, first of all, it's always good to be curious. The minute you're not curious, you're dead.
Right.
So Molly, you know, she basically, what's great about her is she starts to investigate things that she might never have done before.
Exactly.
You know, a lot of those involve sex. But anyway, it's about doing things and not judging.
Thank God, Di. We need more shows that are sex positive.
Especially for women, especially for women. Because women get judged all the time.
Okay, so dying for sex is more like living for sex. All right. So moving on. Speaking of dying, is Dorit Kemsley, is her fandom dying out with her performance part 2 of the Real House of Beverly Hills finale? I think it is.
Let me just say that part 2 of the Beverly Hills reunion was a really choice hour of TV.
No, it was. The last 10 minutes specifically were riveting.
And I think, you know, I am not, yes, the last 10 minutes. And I'm not a Dorit fan to begin with because I think there's just so much fake about her as a person. And I know that divorce is never pretty, but I think there's just so much we don't know.
Right.
You know, her to claim she doesn't have a lawyer is insanity. But I was never part of the Dorit fandom, so I don't understand people who are.
Right.
You know, I'm
not
a
fan. I've never been a fan because I appreciate people who are real, and I don't think that there's that much we're seeing that's real. And this divorce is just magnifying that. I do believe she has a lawyer. I do believe a lot of this is manufactured, not the actual divorce. They are getting divorced.
Oh, they're getting divorced.
Yeah, but it's just kind of the way it's playing out, the way that it had been going on. They had been separated, living in separate
parts of the house.
Right. For a long time before filming. And they're making it seem like this just happened. And it didn't. I know this for a fact. He lived somewhere else for a while. I'm saying for like at least 6 months. So they're kind of playing it like this is all happening real time, and it's not, which I'm sure we should be used to by now, but it's annoying me.
Right.
But I just think that she is being at the reunion. She's losing people. And I talk to people all day long about these shows. I have my Instagram page.
Sure.
My DMs are always open, and
I bet.
she is losing people quickly because she's too shrill. She's yelling too much. She's trying too hard to keep her spot. It's
I
too
was
much
gonna
yelling,
say,
Di. I mean,
I
I
think
love the yelling, but it's too
no,
much.
no, I think she's trying to keep her paycheck, and I think she thinks that by just kind of serving back some of that anger, you know,
Right.
she wants people, she's trying to keep people on her side. And I don't think it works, but I haven't bought her BS for a long time.
She has not, trust me, she has not gained any fans and she has lost fans. And
Uh,
I wonder what her future will be. Obviously, they'll have her back for next season because the ratings are still strong and her divorce is still going on. But
yeah,
someday that divorce is going to end. And I don't know that Dorit has a future at Beverly Hills.
I wonder about that.
Now, what
And
about Sutton? What do we think about how she carried herself?
yeah,
Sutton.
yeah, we talk about Sutton offline all the time because I have so many problems with Sutton.
I know, I know.
Like Sutton's someone that I want to talk to in real life because, you know, part of me always wanted to go, who hurt you? And then they did those episodes with her
Then we
mother.
met the
I learned
mom.
who hurt her. And
There we go.
I also really did not like her making that wallet remark to Dorit. My wallet's bigger than yours. And I do think she is just a nasty person with a drinking problem. And
Yeah,
I think the alcohol exacerbates everything. And it's also Sutton, you know, she can dish it out, but she can't take it. And
right.
oh, it's like, baby, you got to fix yourself a little bit. And I understand she has a legion of fans, and I don't understand it because I don't, first of all, I have a real problem. I have a hard time myself dealing with people who have drinking problems.
Right.
That's just me. And I admit that's a weakness in me.
Well,
But
I will again speak on my thousands of DMs I get and people's opinions, and I will say that that Sutton did gain a few fans this season in terms of
that,
the wallet comment. No one really loved, but they thought Dorit went harder by picking on Sutton. So it's like, well, she said that, and that's bad. But what about Dorit insinuating that she's an alcoholic and this and that?
but,
Picking.
but that's why the end of the reunion was so great when Dorit says, "Oh, here
Here
she is.
she is.
Here
Yeah.
she comes." I was like, "Yeah."
Well, come on. We all saw the real Sutton in her flagship season when she was telling Crystal how she has, you know, she defending that she's not racist and all that stuff was pretty hard to swallow.
I think she has shown her true colors many times.
Many times. I agree.
Look, I agree that she's great TV, though. You have said that many times, and I agree with you.
And on a positive note, Garcelle, I believe we've now all seen firsthand why she's left the show. We can
Yep.
see now, why would you want to be here? These women don't care what you
Yep.
have to say. You can't win with any of them. Your one ally is now lost in the Kyle universe. And then finally to talk about Kyle and just to address head on what bothers everybody as a Kyle fan, somebody who's connected with Kyle personally and thinks she is a nice person, I have to side with come on, you brought Morgan on the show. You did the music video with her. You've insinuated all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Now, I know for a fact, not a fact, but talking to people who are close with Kyle, that she's not wanting to talk about it because of her family and because of her upbringing. And she doesn't want to talk about being in a lesbian relationship. And I completely understand it. I would never want to force anyone out of the closet who didn't want to get out. And who knows if she's even in the closet. It could have been experimental. Maybe it was never physical. I mean, we don't know the lengths, but it is a more nuanced subject than just reality TV. I mean, it is her life, and I get that. But it's annoying people to no end that she won't talk about it because it's already out there. So if you don't want it out there, don't put it out there.
I think, let me tell you, Brian Moylan sent out his newsletter, his Vulture newsletter today.
Love Brian Moylan.
And he made a great point by saying the problem is that Kyle's been really sort of mealy-mouthed about it. And
right.
She like kind of saying, well, I don't want to hurt my family. And, you know, Morgan doesn't want to be discussed and she's not on the show. And it's like, and he goes, I would prefer if she did like a Jenna Lyons thing of, yes, I have a partner. No, I'm not going to talk about it. And
exactly.
That's good.
Right. But that in itself is coming out of the closet.
I think people are irritated that Kyle won't say anything. Also, I feel bad for Kyle because I feel like it's 2025 and Kyle, you know, first of all, you were in a 27-year marriage, which is a huge accomplishment
right.
and a huge win in life. You have these really successful kids. They all work. They're all employed. Who cares if it's the family business? I think she has so much to be proud of and so much. I feel like, baby, live your life. You deserve
Right.
earned it.
Of course, and I do think it does send a signal out that being gay or even bisexual or even experimenting is something to be ashamed of, and I don't like that.
Exactly.
But
And you and
again, this is the stigma exists in her mind alone, and we can't. What can we do about that? What I just wish is that she would stop all. If you aren't going to talk about this, then you would stop the music videos and all of the appearances and the Morgan stuff that's out in the press that we know, part of the paparazzi's there. I mean, come on. If you want to hide it, you could hide.
But you know what makes it worse? The fact that she's on Bravo, that she is on Bravo,
right?
Which
right.
is a network channel that has one of the biggest gay audiences and the biggest following and the biggest supporters and champions.
I know. It's sad. It's sad. Yeah. For that reason.
And I feel like there's such a dissonance there.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a feeling she and Andy Cohen have had off-screen conversations about
absolutely.
And I understand. Look, I understand it's a hard thing to say, and I agree. I also agree with you. I don't think anyone should ever be outed.
Right.
People need to do things in their own time.
It's sad.
I think
sad all around.
Yeah.
Sad all around. Okay, let's just quickly bounce on the Pitt was the series finale, season finale, not series, season finale last night.
Dropped last night.
What did you think about their finale episode?
Absolutely terrific. Look, this show, bangers every week. It never let me down. Every time I had a good cry. I felt things. I learned things. Maybe I could be an EMT. Maybe I could be a doctor now. Just kidding.
I regret not going into that field because their lives, as horrible as it is, I feel like they're never bored. They're not on their phones. They're not on the internet. They're not scrolling. They're saving lives. I mean, to me, it's amazing. I feel like that girl at the end of the episode that was all excited about it. I mean, I'll crash, but I
can't do it because the minute I would see blood, I faint.
Oh,
so I can't do that job.
Not for you, Di. It's not for you.
My hat is off to all of the.
I loved it, and I am looking forward to next season, which they're already plotting out. It's going to be the July 4th weekend, so obviously will take place over the course of a weekend. I feel like, and not just a day.
Start streaming in January of 2026. Not everyone will be returning. So I really wonder if Langdon's coming back. I don't know.
Die. So yeah, because I mean, there's 2 questionable nurses that might not. I know. We'll see who comes back. I want everyone back.
Everyone wants head nurse Dana back. The fabulous Catherine Lanasa. And yeah.
All right. So we both love the Pitt. If you're not watching it, catch up. You have until January 2026.
And then it's streaming on Max. The Pitt is streaming on Max.
All right. So finally, we're going to wrap it up with Di's going to tell you what her guilty pleasure of the week, and then I'll tell you mine.
No, it's my hate watch of the week, Thea.
Okay, hate watch. You got it. I love it. Hate watch is way better than guilty pleasure. And we're both going to have a hate watch when we talk about Next Gen NYC that premieres in June. Okay, so what's your hate watch of the week?
Hate watch is The Baldwins, which is on TLC.
How are you doing this, Di?
Thea, I don't know. I'm like an episode behind now because Hilaria Baldwin is just, I can't with her. I can't. And then it makes me feel really bad for Alec Baldwin, but he entered into this willingly. And then you just see 7 children running around. And then I feel bad for the kids and now I don't know. I saw that Hilaria has I don't know if it's a cookbook or something that she's doing with their oldest daughter, Carmen, who's like 11.
No, we are going to be seeing Next Gen Baldwins in like 3 years, and it's going to be these kids that like going to like a prestigious middle school in New York City. We're going to be seeing these kids on our television until the day we die.
Well, the thing about this show is like now there's Alec Baldwin sitting around going, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I want to like go back to Hollywood. I don't know if I really want to work and stuff. I'm like, after this show, you won't need to worry about it because no one's going to want to hire you. I mean, and Hilaria is just, the woman can't shut up. And literally, it's just this constant verbal diarrhea. And it's like, oh God.
Well, you're doing the Lord's work watching it because I refuse to watch it.
I may have to stop because it's wearing on me. I literally feel the energy draining from me. But anyway,
Well, mine is not a hate watch. I don't think I've hate watched anything in a while because I have
good.
very limited TV time, but I am obsessed with Australian Survivor. As
Oh,
my
I just
followers,
love that show.
as my followers know, I've seen every episode of every Survivor. Watched News. I've watched everything, but I love Australian. JLP is just insane. The host, he's so cute and so buff and so beautiful. I'm blushing. But it's Australian Survivor. They play harder than US Survivor. They're out there longer. It's more pure. There's less producing, there's less gimmicks.
Oh,
There's
okay.
no, no one's going to any redemption island. I mean, there's tons of idols all around. That's the only thing they kind of are heavy on the idols. But they are playing hard, and Australian personalities are just so colorful and wonderful. And I'm loving this season, particularly. They're having a great run. They're coming up to the end. You can watch it on showvideos.net, is the illegal way to watch it, but it's a website that you can watch. Not illegal. There's a website called showvideos.net wherein you can watch lots of overseas shows. And I don't think it's illegal, but it's not network. So you can watch it there, and I'm loving it. And they're having a great season, and we're down to the final. And I'm rooting for Miles. If you're watching it, I'm rooting for Miles. He's the self-professed island rat that's ratted his way right up to the top of the show, and so we're all kind of rooting for him, I feel like. So that's my love watch, and I will be hate watching Love Hotel with Ashley
I
and
think that's going to be funny.
Luann.
Yeah, I think that's going to be like a comedy highlight. It starts April 27th on Bravo, and honestly, I just think it's going to be funny.
It depends on how messy it is. Like Shannon and Luann can get messy if they're drinking or something. We could be hate watching it
If
through our.
if they're drinking,
Okay,
if,
if they're drinking heavily, sometimes for me it's a little hard to watch, so we'll have to see. But I'm looking forward to the format. I love anything that's branches off from Housewives because I feel like we get to see more people's personalities. I've heard great things about Shannon Storms Bedore, and I personally have encountered none of the great things. So I'm waiting for a show that shows her in a favorable light, because I personally have encountered her to not be a very nice human being. So maybe the show will redeem her. I don't know. We'll see.
okay, okay. And I assume you'll be watching season 2 of The Valley, which is starting April 15th.
I mean, I cannot, I'm a day one Vanderpump. I wrote the Vanderpump trivia book. I can't get these kids. I cannot get enough. So The Valley, I'll be watching every second. We'll watch the demise of Jax. We'll watch the rise of Brittany. We'll watch Kristen finally get her dreams. I mean, I'm so excited about all of it. It's messy. We've got Quentin Tarantino in the mix now. I mean, we are really,
Wow.
we are really, really going to get some good TV with The Valley. I'm very excited.
I saw some photos from the premiere party.
Yeah,
I guess either last night or something.
last night, right? It looked great.
And then coming in June, you mentioned it, Next Gen NYC on Bravo, which now I guess they dropped an extended trailer for that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, it's like a murderer's row of Children of Bravo stars. It's
I
Nepo Bravo.
There's only so much I can take of Gia and Teresa, but I'm going to give the show, of course, a try. I actually am one of there's not tons of, well, there are some Meredith Marks fans, but I'm a Meredith Marks fan. And so I'm interested in her son and her. Yeah, you're not. I see. I know I'm in the minority, but she fascinates me.
No, but I think Brooks is good TV.
No, Brooks will be great. So we'll tune into that, and we will be talking about that show and giving our thoughts. And next week on the pod.
Well, no, not next week. It doesn't premiere until June.
Well, next week on the pod, we'll be talking about other shows, but we will be talking about that when it comes up.
Exactly.
We'll be talking about everything that goes on this coming up week. Everybody.
I just wanted to give a belated congrats to Nathan and Gail from Below Deck Med, because they're
having a baby.
They're having a baby boy, and I think that's very exciting. I mean, we have Kate Chastain's baby, but we don't know who the baby daddy is. But I thought that was really nice that those.
I know who he is. Very nice gentleman. Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
Not Ben, not the chef Ben, a normie. She had a baby with a normie. Obviously they're not together, but I do know who he is because I wrote Captain Lee's one-man show, and they were in constant contact at that point. So I do know about him, and he seemed like he's going to be a great dad, and I'm sure they're co-parenting and all that.
And just two more TV tips, if people are looking for stuff to watch this weekend.
Okay.
Hacks is back.
Hacks. I haven't watched last night yet, but I can't wait.
Yeah, first two episodes streaming on Max. And also John Hamm's new show is premiering. It's called Your Friends and Neighbors, and that's dropping on Apple TV Plus. So check that out. Very good show. And he's hosting SNL this weekend. So
Gonna be great. I love him.
fantastic.
I remember when we were at Three Arts and John Hamm was dating the kissing Jessica Stein girl. What was her name?
Jessica. That was, yeah, it's who he was with for 15 years, and I can't remember.
Google the movie Kissing Jessica Stein, and you'll see the writer used to be for many, many years with John Hamm's girlfriend. They were together for a long time. They made it a long time as a Hollywood couple. And so I always think about, she was one of our clients. So I always think about him coming in. He came in a couple times to the office with her, and I got to meet him, and he was
I never met that. Nope.
Yeah, dreamy in person, like the eyes, the whole direct stare. Yeah, John Hamm is amazing, so I can't wait for that show. And you're loving Deli Boys on Hulu, which I've seen as well, which is a great show.
An amazing comedy. I'm always looking for more comedies, and boy, oh boy, does the show deliver.
No, it's hilarious. You guys check that out. All right, well, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will see you here next week. And Di, have a great rest of your day in Los Angeles, and thank you so much for your brilliant insights. Have a great weekend. Okay, bye-bye, guys.
Bye.